What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Drumcast. I am your host, as always, Mark Zapata. I am the founder and owner of MarkZDrums, and I'm coming in way hot. I am here on a beautiful Wednesday. We got a little bit of a scare, temperature-wise, this morning, where it was in the 30s when I got up at 7 a.m. Now, it steadily got better, thank goodness, and for the rest of the week, it's supposed to be beautiful up here in the Northeast. There is your MarkZDrums weather forecast for today, but it is a beautiful Wednesday. I want to thank you all for showing up, for coming out, for checking out the videos, either live or after the fact. It's all good. As always, a great week of teaching, some obstacles or bumps in the road in one of my student bands, if you can call it that, and just continuing to help my students navigate these inevitable bumps in the road when you're in a band. It's just what happens. It's just the way it goes. So we are working through that now. And I will tell you, as always, communication is key. As a director, it is my job to make sure that I have my eyes and ears open to all situations that may be going on, so that I can address them. And usually I address them with communications with my students and encouraging communication between bandmates. I was very proud of my students last week because one of them, or more than one of them, expressed some concerns to another bandmate. And in the nicest way possible. And really, actually, let me not say express concerns. They put out there what they needed from their bandmate in the band. And I thought that was phenomenal, right? I have trouble when this, and this, so it would be great if you can do this, and that. And they worked out some things that weren't sounding right to them. And again, 13 and 14 years old, and they know what they're looking for as far as the band goes. They know what they want the experience to be. They know how they want their band to sound, which is amazing, right? So, after one of the songs, the run through, one of the band members was like, "Hey, there's something that doesn't feel right to me, that doesn't sound right to me," and we talked about it as a band, and we came up with a solution, and we came up with something that would help the situation. And like I said, I thought it was phenomenal. I said to her afterwards, I said, "Great job," and she wasn't sure what I was talking about. I said, "Great job expressing your feelings about what's going on in the band, and putting out what you need, putting out your needs to your bandmates. That's something that we should never shy away from. We should always be able to communicate with our bandmates. It makes things so much easier, and it makes a solution that much more attainable." So that was one of the great moments I had from teaching over the weekend. And I don't know, if any of you out there watching teach and have students, I feel like I do some teaching here on the Drumcast, but I also want to make it a point to address fellow teachers out there with, and I know I express some of my experience and stuff like that, but sometimes I want to directly address some teachers out there, or teachers out there, fellow teachers out there, with some of my experience. I belong to a number of groups, drum teaching groups, and there are many discussions. A lot of topics come up, and teachers of all experience levels come on and they ask questions. How would you handle this situation? How would you handle that situation? And I have a number of years under my belt, so if I have some good feedback, I give it, and it's a really great place to get those questions answered and to get that feedback from people who have been there, which is what I'm looking to build with my Patreon community, with my Drumcast community, with my MarkZDrums.com community, is to provide a place where questions can be asked and answered, support can be given and received, and we can all share our experience and knowledge and gain experience and knowledge at the same time. So I had a new student come in yesterday, young man, probably about, oh no, he said he was 8. 8-year-old young man come in, very excited about playing the drums. And as I always do and often do, I invite the father in to come and sit and see what's going on. And, you know, the student was expressing that he didn't want his father to come in. So I said, how about we have Dad in for a few minutes and then we kick him out, all right? And the kid laughs and the dad laughs and smiles and we go in. And I noticed something, and this is something that I realized. I don't have a lot of parents that come in, but I have had the occasion where parents come in and then they want to continue to keep coming in, lesson after lesson after lesson. And after a couple of lessons, I have to politely say, hey, the lessons work better when it's just a one-on-one situation. And without getting into all of the dynamics of that, it really boils down to the kids are different when they're with me, without their parents in the room, than they are with their parents in the room. It's 100%, sometimes night and day. And for example, this particular student, after Dad left, hold on a second. Why are you bothering me all of a sudden? Siri's bothering me. So in this particular lesson, the dad stayed for a little over half the lesson, and then he left. The child opened up. The child got talkative. The child became, and he was involved in the lesson before, but he seemed to be looser and more relaxed. I don't know what anybody's home family dynamic is. I know parenting is not easy, and I know a lot of times that I teach. All right, this is. I don't know what happens, but there are times when. Oh boy. Okay, well, she is going to, yeah, this can't keep going on. Anyway, all of a sudden I have this thing that's popping up now with the new update. But anyway, enough about that. The child was way more engaged and involved and talkative and excited once Dad left. Now, Dad seemed very cool, very nice guy, but I will tell you that what I think happens, and like I said, I don't have a lot of experience with this, but what I think happens when dads come in, I hope you're not hearing that, when dads come in, is that I think that sometimes they get embarrassed if their children aren't getting it right away. As was the case with this young man yesterday. It took him a little while. And Dad was like, and then he would finally say something, and no, he said to do it this way. And I have a specific way of teaching. I'm not on the kid. because I'm not expecting results right away immediately. I'm not on the student constantly. No, no, do this. No, change that. Do this, do this. I let them do what they're doing and I observe, especially in the first lesson. I let them do what they're doing and I observe and I give them some direction here and there. Um, but but no, I have to fix this now because this is actually crazy. All right. Oh, and I think we're done. Goodbye, Siri. Anyway, um, wow. Hold on a second. See, now I often get the comment that I'm very patient, and I am with my students as a teacher. Right now, all right, I'm not even going to get into it. Some weird things are happening with my computer. But anyway, uh, so I think what happens is I think that the dads get embarrassed if the student doesn't get it right away. And this young man was not getting it right away, and that's fine. I hang back, I observe, I give them some direction, I correct them if they're not hearing or if they're not listening, and I try to get them to listen because what happens, I think, when they come in initially, they're excited, but they're also nervous, and it's all new to them. So it's not, the perfect time to really get on them and hound them about doing this or doing that. So I don't do that. I let them get through, um, and then I evaluate, which is what I did this first lesson. And I figure out, does the child have a sense of timing? Does the child have a good ear? Are they understanding what's happening in the music? I'll put on some simple songs. We'll establish some simple rhythms and things like that. Um, does the child like to count or not? Like things, little things like that. Left-handed, right-handed, left-footed, right-footed, all of that good stuff to find out in a first lesson. Um, and then I just wait and I let them do their thing. And then I explain to the parent afterwards in a kind of off the cuff way, not making a big deal out of it, right? So after the lesson, we go out. The child was excited. He kept saying, I hope I have you as my teacher. I hope I have you as my teacher, which, warms my heart all the time. And I said, yes, you'll have me as your teacher. And I said to the dad, I said, yeah, I said, he did well. I said, he has a good sense of timing. He's enthusiastic. And I said, we'll work on his listening skills and we will work on um, his timing. I said, I like to let them just play and see if they lock in and see if they, see, this is what I'm talking about. Why, first of all, why is this still back on? All right, hold on. Wow. All right, can we quit that now? Like, I apologize um, for all the gremlins in my computer today. I mean, just randomly starting to play a song? Really? Okay, so he seemed very enthusiastic, and I gave him some stuff to take home, and I said, this is, what we're going to be working on. Uh, so for any of those of you out there that do teach and do run into parent issues, and I won't even call them issues, it's just normal stuff, right? Parents want to know what's going on in their child's drum lesson. Um, but when a parent wants to constantly come in, the invitation is really only for the first maybe two lessons. Because it is a huge distraction for the children, and I'm going to say 100% of the time. The child is very, very different when the parents are out of the room. They're more relaxed, they're more comfortable. They don't feel the pressure of performing for their parents. They don't feel the pressure of doing well for their parents and getting their parents' approval. I'm not like that in a lesson, so I'm not, giving approval or holding approval from my students. I'm just working with them and just letting them know that it's okay. Louis's outside. He wants to come in and join the show, but I locked him out. I'm not cruel. I'm not cruel. So I just let them know that it's okay to not get something right away, and maybe I am giving them different messages than they might be feeling from their parents. It's okay not to get this stuff right away. Some things you're going to get immediately, some things not so much. You have to be okay with not getting something. You have to be okay with failing. You have to be okay with not doing it perfectly the first time out of the box. You have to give yourself time to learn, give yourself time to progress, and be patient with yourself. That's my biggest message to my students, because a lot of them do feel pressure to perform perfectly first time out, like Louis, right? So this Drumcast is a series of distractions and interruptions and noises and things like that, but it's okay. We're going to soldier on. So anyway, basically, I want to talk about counting, because that's one of the things that I have the most resistance to. I get the most pushback from my students simply about counting. They don't like to count. They certainly don't want to count out loud, and they all believe that they can do it on their own, in their own heads, and it's going to be wonderful. And it never is, because counting out loud is very, very different from trying to count in your head and trying to maintain the count in your mind when you have so many other things that you're thinking about at the same exact time. And, what you're playing, what you're hearing in the song, all of these different things or if you're playing a piece of music that's written, what you're reading, counting is the first thing to go out of your head. Bye-bye counting. We stop counting because we simply cannot keep everything in our heads. So the counting just stops. I'm going to have to do some research as to why counting out loud, because it's a physical thing, keeps us going and we don't stop counting. And I mean, students do, and I have to remind them, but it's so much easier to keep counting when you're counting out loud. And then it becomes just like another thing that you're doing. And of course, it's uncomfortable at first, but moving forward, when it ends up happening, is you get more and more comfortable with counting out loud, and it becomes very, very helpful to your cause. Whether you are playing along to a song, whether you are reading a piece of music, whether you are doing rudiments, it doesn't really matter what you're doing. Counting out loud helps you to build and strengthen your internal clock, gives you a better sense of time, keeps your playing more in time. And I do this A and B constantly with my students. And I let them play a piece that they're reading and they're not sure of the count and they're not leaving enough space for a quarter note and they're jumping into the next note too soon, or whatever it is. Or they're playing notes that are or they're playing notes too fast as if they're different notes. And for example, they're playing eighth notes as if they were 16th notes. Things like that. I let them play that way. And then I make them count out loud and try it again. And inevitably, when they count out loud and try it again, it's way better. Now, I'm not going to say it's perfect, but it's way more in time. And it sounds more musical. It sounds more even. And it is, because we can count probably way more on time out loud than we can in our heads. Again, because of all the distractions and all the things that are going on in our heads. So, simply put, learn how to count. learn basic counting, learn basic notation, musical notation, learn what a quarter note is, learn what all the notes are and how they relate to one another. Whole note, half note, quarter note, eighth note, 16th note, 32nd note. I would definitely say go down to 32nd notes. All we're doing is we're taking a whole note, which is worth 4 beats, and cutting it in half to get 2 half notes, which are worth 2 beats each. So we go from a 4-beat whole note to 2 2-beat half notes. We cut each one of those half notes in half, and we come up with 1 quarter note or 2 quarter notes for every half note. So we come up with 4 quarter notes, which are worth now for 1 beat each, or 4 beats. We cut each one of those quarter notes in half, and we yield 2 eighth notes out of each one of those quarter notes that we cut in half. And each one of those eighth notes is now worth a half a beat each, because remember, the quarter note is worth 1 beat. So if we cut it in half, each of the 2 smaller notes we get is worth a half a beat each. We repeat that process and cut each one of the eighth notes in half to yield 2 16th notes for every eighth note we cut in half. And each 16th note is now worth 1 quarter beat each, because the eighth note we cut in half is worth a half a beat, and we cut that in half to come up with 2 quarter beats each eighth note. Oh my goodness. Okay, now wow. I've shut this music app down twice already, and it just keeps popping up and playing the same song. All right. So anyway, we get down to 16th notes, which are worth 1 quarter of a beat each. We cut each one of them in half, and each 16th note yields 2 32nd notes, which are now worth 1/8 of a beat each. Okay, so there are 8 32nd notes in a beat. There are 4 16th notes in a beat. There are 2 eighth notes in a beat. There is 1 quarter note per beat. And a half note is worth 2 beats, and a whole note is worth 4 beats. That is basically how we break down musical notation. And all of the notes, as they go smaller by 1/2, right? Which means they double in speed. So those are some basic notation notes. When we're counting, we are going to do 4/4 time, because most of the time, that's the most common time signature we have. 4 beats per measure. Quarter note gets 1 beat, right? So that's my lesson learned. That's the last time I lock Louis out of the studio when I'm doing a show. He likes to come in and out. My mistake. It was a totally aesthetic choice that I'm paying for now. All right. So anyway, we're going to be counting in 4s, right? 4 beats per measure. Quarter note gets 1 beat, and we're simply going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. And as we're playing a beat, let's say, for example, we're going to be counting 1, 2, 3, 4. So I am counting the quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Bass drum on 1, snare drum on 2, bass drum on 3, snare drum on 4. Now I'm going to count the eighth notes, which would represent the hi-hat that I'm playing. Because for every bass drum, I'm playing 2 hi-hats. For every snare drum, I'm playing 2 hi-hats. So it'll go something like this. One and 2 and 3 and 4 with the hi-hat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay. 16th notes. I also use syllables. So if we have a word that has 4 syllables that are evenly spaced, like let's say alligator, I use them to teach the count of 16th notes. But the actual count of a 16th note is 1, E, and A. We have the beat, which is 1, 2, 3, or 4. The second 16th note is counted as E. The third 16th note is counted as and the fourth 16th note is counted as U-H. That is the most common way to count 16th notes. Now you may notice when I counted eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, that I have the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4, and then I have the and, which is the halfway point between each beat. Well, you may have noticed that when I counted 16th notes, I counted 1, E, and A. Because the 1 and the and of the eighth notes line up exactly where the 1 and the and fall in the 16th notes. Because all we're doing is we're taking the 1 and the and of the eighth notes, and we're putting a 16th note in between those two notes and immediately after the second eighth note. So that is how we come up with 1, E, and A. So now we have 4 notes per beat in a 16th note. How do we count 32nd notes? We don't come across them a lot, especially as beginners, but they are there. And you will hear them, especially when you're breaking down faster fills, faster beats, things like that. And simply, we will count 16th notes, 1, E, and A, but play 2 notes per count, like this. Okay, so let me go back because I forgot to put my mic on. That song is called Image of Man by Madame St. Beatrice, and I'm playing drums on it. And on Friday, I'm going to the studio to record a couple of more songs with her and Paul, the guitar player of Reagan Youth. And we have some other great news coming up as we get closer. I'll put it on out there. I'll announce it. But for some reason, that song keeps popping up and interrupting the Drumcast. So there must be a reason. So I figured I'd put it out there and let everybody know in case they're wondering and they want to look it up. Okay, so getting back to 32nd note counts, we simply count 16th notes and we play 2 notes per count. All right, so when we count 1, we play 2 notes, E and A. I should have my pad. Next time I'll have my pad. 1, E and A, 2, E and A, like that. And that's how we count 32nd notes. Because really, for each beat that we're playing, especially if the tempo is a mid to higher tempo, we're not going to articulate 8 different sounds to represent 32nd notes. But I will say that's how we count them when we play them. I'm going to have to look into how we write them. How do we write them out? How do we count them as written? but I think we count them the same way. Count a 16th note, double them up to get your 32nd note. So one of the biggest things that I use counting for, and I do some reading of music and certainly some writing of music and some transcription. So when I'm transcribing a song for my students, I absolutely have to listen and count so that I know what's being played and I know what to write in the notation, especially when it comes to fills. Beats are a bit easier depending on the type of beat it is. If it's a basic rock beat, it's pretty easy to transcribe and write down. But when you get into more complex rhythms and you get into polyrhythms and you get into fills and things like that, then yes, counting is a must, because that's how I identify where the notes are falling, what kind of notes they are, and rests, and what's actually going on in the song. So no matter what you think about music, when you're listening, and especially for the new people out there, when you're listening to music, no matter how chaotic and crazy it sounds, there is a structure to it, right? There's always a structure to it. And this is one of the things that I really stress and emphasize with my students that are trying to learn more complex music. I emphasize the fact that no matter how crazy it sounds, no matter how chaotic it sounds, no matter how impossible it seems to figure out, there is a structure to it. There are notes, there is a reason, there is a count. We can figure it out no matter what it is, right? So, oh, wow. Wow, it just popped up again, but now it's not playing. What is up with this computer? I wonder if it has anything to do with, I've been having issues, right? Let me see, hold on. Let me just play some. You like that sound? It's called plugs and layers. It's kind of a weird, really deep kind of sounding drum kit with a lot of resonance, a lot of low end. I like it. Okay, so I thought maybe the issue was that somehow my drums were triggering my computer to open a program, which through MIDI and sometimes with the, or even this, with my A10 Mini plugged into my computer and my drums, sometimes the video switcher, and I got to look into it, can trigger sounds on my drum kit. So I was wondering if it had anything to do with maybe triggering a program to pop up on my computer. But anyway, let's get back to this real quick because we're actually over time, and now Louis is really letting me know that he wants me to open this door. Okay, because you notice he's closer now, right? He's closer to the door. He's right outside the door now. So when you are learning, listening to songs and trying to learn music, count along with it. Count along 16th notes. Identify the 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the beat of the song, and count 16th notes. At least count 16th notes when the fills come in, and then you could start to place the notes in the fills within the bar of music, right? Within that measure. And you can also place where the snare drum hits are. A lot of times you'll have the 2, snare drum on the 2 and the of 2. That's a trend that goes on in music. Or even a bass drum pattern with the bass drum on the 1 or the 3 and the of 3 or 1, okay? It's kind of an off-time thing where it moves beats closer together, or it moves notes closer together within the beats. because it's occurring at the beginning of the beat and at the very end of the beat. So it's a different kind of feel. It happens a lot on the snare drum. But if you're trying to figure out a song with a lot of ghost notes on the snare drum, count your 16th notes along to the song, and you will start to match up where those hits are with your count, and you'll be able to identify where those notes are actually happening. And then you'll be able to replicate it and reproduce it yourself by counting as you're playing. Okay, so that's a very, very big point. And just as far as reading music and playing a piece of music, it keeps you on time. It keeps you aware of what notes you're playing, the relationship between notes. It keeps you on time. If it's uncomfortable for you, I'm sorry about that, but it's going to make your life so much easier. Get over it. Okay, get comfortable with counting. Don't be embarrassed. You don't sound stupid. You don't sound silly. Get comfortable with counting. You don't have to count at the top of your lungs, but just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And it's way better than the animals I have my young students count to learn rhythm. But anyway, make sure you learn how to count. Don't be embarrassed by it. It makes your life easier. It makes my life easier. I love to count. You know why I love to count? Because it makes things easier. Because when my student says to me, what is going on in this song right here? Hold on, let me listen. Count it out. Okay, this is here, that's there, this is there, that's there. And I'm able to tell them exactly where all the notes are being played. Because I can count, and it makes things easier for me. Anyway, I'm signing off because I'm about to flip my lid with all of the craziness going on this today's Drumcast. I'm going to rename the Drumcast the Chaos Cast, just because of all the craziness. But I'm going to go grab Louie and shave all his hair off, not as a punishment, but because he needs it. He's starting to be a scruffy beast. And I'm going to give him a big hug because I know he just wants to come in and hang out with his daddy and be part of the show. And I was a jerk, and I closed the door. So anyway, this is my punishment, and I deserve it. So anyway, everybody have a great day. All right, enjoy this beautiful weather. I'm going to go out and teach some students. I'm going to go out and play some drums. I'm going to go out and have some fun. Please check me out on all my socials, MarkZDrums. Go over to my Patreon if you want to become a part of the family. Membership is cheap, and you get a lot of cool stuff. MarkZDrums at Patreon. And thank you for your support, whatever it is, whether it's a like or a view or a follow or a share or a what's the other thing? A subscription, whatever it is. I appreciate all of it and all of you. So have